worn out from standing, so if you guys don't mind. But first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming. I'm really happy with the turnout. This has been a big turning point for me in my art career, and it's born out of a very personal experience. So to be able to share it with you in this intimate setting with this community, it just means the world to me. So I'm just gonna give a little talk about my art, the journey that got me here, and we'll open up to questions and discussion afterwards. So just to start off, in case you didn't know, my name is Jaimee Todd. I'm an artist, self-taught. I've been making art all my life, but about 18 years ago, I decided to move to New York and, like everybody else, pursue the dream of being an artist. So when I started out, I was doing painting and doing some photography. And then around 2012, I caught the photography bug and started doing street photography around New York. And then I still had these yearnings from my painting days when I used to paint with acrylic and watercolor. So I started experimenting with taking this paint and dumping it in a fish tank of water and just watching the ink spread out and see what kind of abstract shapes it would make. And I used to call those inkscapes. So then after that, I graduated to doing digital art, combining it with Photoshop, and I would do a lot of portrait work, especially focusing on like Black women and Afrofuturism. So you would have hair that looked like an extension of someone's soul with bright colors, and it was very cloudy. So I was doing that for a while, and I got a lot of opportunities through that, and it was more than I ever expected. I had a chance to partner with National Black Theater, Apple. It was really, really, really going great. And I was doing it for several years. And then after a certain point, there's this kind of like a trade-off when you have these opportunities, because then it begins to feel like sometimes you're like phoning it in, and that you're losing that spontaneity and that passion because you're exchanging it for money. And once you start doing that, everything kind of changes. So I started having like these yearnings, like, I kind of miss painting, but I don't know if I want to go back to that because people know me as the Inkscape girl. So then fast forward to 2020, and this is when all hell broke loose for all of us, right? The pandemic. And this is when we had, this is one of the many crossroads I found myself in with everyone else. So the pandemic hits, and suddenly we're all apart from each other. We can't touch each other, we can't talk to each other. Everything's digital. And at this point, I got tired of doing like digital wine and dines. I really started to miss that feeling started coming back of missing holding a pen in your hand, an ink brush in your hand, or having some paper in front of you and smelling the paint. But I still wasn't ready to make that change yet because I had so much fear that people thought like, what are you doing? You're known for making like the Inkscape stuff. And so fast forward to June 2021. I go in for my routine mammogram, walking in thinking like, okay, business as usual. And I go in, I start talking to the radiologist, like, we need to take some more images. I was like, okay, that's fine. I had complicated tissue for years, so I was kind of expecting it. So they go and they send me back into the waiting room, and I'm looking at Amazon, looking at foot cream. And someone says to me, and I was like, it's no big deal. And they're kind of like, come back here. And so we need to do a biopsy. So that's when kind of like the floor kind of felt like it fell out from beneath me. And they're like, oh no, it's fine, you'll be fine. So they do the biopsy about a week later, and I wait for my results. And it's like 5 days of just like agonizing waiting. And I get the call from the doctor, and they're like, well, we're sorry, but you have breast cancer. It's stage 0, so we're glad that you caught it early. This is why we tell women to get the mammograms. So this is a good thing. Don't lose any sleep over it, which is kind of ironic to say, but we got you. But, and this is a part of the talk where I'm going to be sprinkling in PSAs about breast cancer care, so bear with me. So after you get that kind of diagnosis, you have this next step of you consult with the surgeon, and then they have you do an MRI. My surgeon was kind of like, it's one area, it's going to be fine, we'll just take it out, and then, tamoxifen and, radiation, and, it's, too big, we'll just do some chemo. And he's talking to me like I'm getting a haircut. I said, okay. So I went in and did the MRI, and they found some more areas that were like, we're going to have to do more biopsies. So at this point, I'm saying to the surgeon, maybe I need to be talking about a double mastectomy, because I knew at this point that I had dense, cloudy tissue that was hard to read, and I was terrified there was something there that they couldn't see. And he looked at me and he was like, why would you do that to yourself? It's like taking a sledgehammer to your chest. Which is like ridiculous because it's like, well, you know, I kind of like this whole living thing. I don't want it to come back and haunt me. And he's just like, yeah, no, it'll be fine. And then I got a call the next day and I found out their office had mixed up my pathology report so that there was another area, but they thought it was in the same breast. And it was like, oh, no, sorry, it's actually the other one's bad too. But we'll just do some lumpectomies. It'll be fine. And my boyfriend's like, no, we're going to get another opinion. So I go to a second opinion. She's like the same thing. Oh, you know, lumpectomy, you know, just 2 lumpectomies, it'll be fine. I said, are you sure you're seeing everything? And they just said, well, yeah, you know, I'm sure if it's not, you know, we'll just have you come back every 6 months and just, you know, scan you. And if something's wrong, we'll just, you know, we'll just take it out. And it's like, once again, they're talking about it like it's a haircut. And I was like, yeah, but, you know, what if there's something there? And it's just like, why would you take a sledgehammer to your chest and do a mastectomy? So at this point, my boyfriend's like, okay, we need to get a third opinion. So finally I get a call Mount Sinai after my other doctor make a recommendation. And they said, you know, yeah, we want to take a look at your images from the last 3 years. And we want to see everything and we want it stacked because we're going to look at this very, very closely. So I go to Mount Sinai and they looked at it very closely and they sat down. I had this wonderful surgeon who sat down and described like DCIS, stage 0. You caught it early. Yes, you know, we can treat it, but your case is different. I think you need to be thinking about a double mastectomy because there are other areas there that the first radiologist missed. And there might be more stuff there that we just can't see. And she's like, if you don't believe me, I'll take you down to radiology right now. And they took me down and I met the radiologist and she sat and explained, she's like, there's all these different areas. And she's like, there are things there that we cannot see. And this might be the canary in the coal mine. So yeah, double mastectomy. So at this point, like I felt relief, but also fear because here we are like going through radical surgery. You know, you're removing parts of yourself. And, you know, I've been kind of like passed around with different doctors and they've been very cavalier. And this is the first time I felt like I met a doctor who really cared. And I looked at her and I said, will you treat me? She's like, I would be honored to treat you. So I was like, okay, you're hired. Yeah. So we went with the decision to do double mastectomy. But she had said to me, like, well, you know, you're young. Maybe you need to be thinking about reconstruction options. Now, at this point, I was just like, no, one and done. You know, I'm good being flat. It's been fine to have these things for all these years, but, you know, I like to keep it simple. But I think this is when I was starting to realize that when you're dealing with a breast cancer diagnosis, you're contemplating mastectomy, there's still this pressure to try and look normal and do reconstruction. And I think there's this perception that women are so attached to their breasts, their appearance. And it's just like a lot of us, we just want to live. So I humored her. I went to the plastic surgeon and I listened to the procedure and it was a lot. And I was just like, this is a lot to go through for the appearance of breasts. I could do a padded bra, I'm good. We're gonna go flat. I've always wanted to wear backless dresses anyway. So we decided to do a surgery date. So at this point, I spoke to the office around July. We decided to do surgery September. So fast forward September, I'm kind of like, you know, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, because the thing with DCIS is that it's not like you feel a lump in your breast. It's not obvious. It's just kind of like, it's just some abstraction. It just looks like salt crystals on a mammogram. But it wasn't until the night before the surgery that it really hit me like, oh my God, this is really real. And I couldn't really function. I'm going through the day, I'm crying, I'm just trying to go through the motions. And, you know, at one point my boyfriend's like, you don't have to do this. I said, no, this has got to get done, so let's do it. And so I picked up my clothes the night before. I pulled out one of my Zuri dresses, yellow because it's one of my favorite colors and it cheers me up. And I walked into surgery. And I remember at this point, like I was less nervous, but still scared. But I felt so reassured by this team of nurses, and they were so focused on making me feel cared for. And I told them, like, I'm scared. And they're like, it's okay. We got you. We got you. Don't worry about it. Dr. Welch, she's one of the best surgeons. She's going to take very good care of you. They walked me down into surgery. They were playing Tina Turner. I was like, that's a good sign, right? So like, I want to be good. So 4 hours later, I woke up out from surgery. And I wasn't in a lot of pain. And that's the surprising thing about mastectomy is that you think it's like this, painful process. Actually, no, I was pretty good. And I went home, and when you have these surgeries, you have like these drains they put in your chest. So you kind of look a little, like it's like almost like a Frankenstein experiment. There's like these tubes and they're draining the fluid, and they have it attached to like a surgical bra. And, I felt good. I was walking around like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, T-Rex arms, but I was so scared to look at myself. Because even though I went for what they call an aesthetic flat closure to make it look as smooth as possible, there was parts of me that were missing. And, there's a swelling. And so when I would like try and clean myself, I would look away. And when the nurses would come in and check on me at home, I would look away, like I don't want to look, because I was just so terrified. And the glimpses that I saw, it was swollen. And I remember one time finally just getting the courage to just peel off a little bit of it and seeing it. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was shaking, but I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to love this body, no matter what it comes out and looks like. So after the surgery, it was about a week later is when you do final pathology. And this is when you find out, whether or not the cancer spread. And that was my biggest fear, because we're talking about multifocal areas. And they took out some lymph nodes, so I'm worried that, it's invasive and I'd have to do chemo. And I go to the doctor's office, and the first thing she says when she walks in, she's like, you don't have invasive cancer, and your lymph nodes are clean. So like, basically you are considered cured. And I sat down, and I remember just sitting there, and she was just sitting calmly letting me process this feeling. And she said, you're going to be able to move so much smoother and lighter now, because you don't have literally this weight on your chest. And she's like, now go live your life. Because one of the things that's the hardest thing about recovering from this illness is that you're afraid that it will come back. What if it comes back? And nobody can give you a definitive answer. You just have to go forward and just be grateful that you caught it when you did. So I go home, I'm feeling pumped up and exhilarated. But at this point, it's October, which means it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And this is my first month as a survivor, just getting in my surgery about a week before. And, it's a mixed feeling for breast cancer survivors when you have this month, because it's like, yes, you want people to think of you, but it's overwhelming. It's the pink and the ribbons and, it's rah, rah, rah. And I was lucky because I caught it early. But for so many women, they don't get a happy ending. For stage 4 women, they have to live with it. For stage 4 cancer, you have to live with it for the rest of your life. And so there's that feeling of guilt. Like, I know I did the right thing by catching it early, but it's like, I know women who the first time got diagnosed with stage 4, and they're fighting for their lives. And then you're always looking like, well, what if it comes back? So that was a hard month. So this is when I had to figure out a way to find peace. And this is where I went, and I turned back to my refuge of art. Art's always been my refuge. But I knew I couldn't go back to making just digital pretty pictures. I needed to create something that kind of reflected the turmoil of the time, of the experience. And so at this point, you have a pandemic, a breast cancer diagnosis, and oh yes, democracy is going to hell. So at this time, it's like there's a sense of urgency that I felt. And I just needed to find a way to calm my mind. So I would just take a pen and just draw these lines intersecting, and they would swirl, and just that motion just calmed me. And it took me back to the days when I was a little girl, and I used to draw these line pictures all the time with reams of paper. And I was doing that again, and it felt great. And then I just wanted to do something where I felt like this is what I look like. I have these scars on my chest, that I could finally look at myself. And it's, it wasn't easy, but I'm still here. And there's lines and scars, but there's still beauty in all of that. And how do I capture that? And this is where this line work was born. I wanted to draw work that showed like the turmoil and the chaos of like, not just breast cancer, but just like health issues. Because the truth is that none of us are gonna leave this life unscarred, whether it's emotional or physical or both. And I wanted to create something that captured that feeling. So the works that you see over there on the wall kind of like were my first bigger paintings that I was doing to like represent like the intersection of the lines. You see the two women in the middle, it's called interconnected, and one of the women is a single mastectomy patient, and you see another one with complicated breast tissue. And so like the images are supposed to represent the complication that we all live with, and that you're passing people on the street that are living with these things and you don't even know it. And so by creating these like abstract nudes and figurative work, it's kind of exposing, you know, what's going on underneath. And it does feel like complicated and busy, but it's also beautiful because life is messy and it's beautiful. And so I felt like I was trying something new, and that fear that I had before of changing my medium kind of just melted away. And so I started like getting up the courage to showing it to other breast cancer patients. And in my support groups, a lot of the women like, you know what, I finally feel seen. I feel like you're capturing this journey that's so ugly and terrifying but beautiful at the same time. And it just means so much to me. So one of my favorite pieces that I created, it's a collection over there. It's called The Four Seasons. And it's a series of like abstract works of, they're 4 portraits, and they represent the seasons of the year: spring, summer, fall, and winter. But each figure represents what a different stage of like breast cancer treatment or care. So some figures you see like a total mastectomy like I had with no reconstruction, they're flat. One of the images represents a single mastectomy, and that's where one breast was removed, and one shows complicated breast tissue. So I put the pieces up for sale, and other people in the support group saw it, and they're like, I'm a winter, I'm spring, I'm fall. And it's like, I finally feel like this looks just like me. And so it just really, really hit me like, wow, you know, this is just more than just about me. This is about like reaching back into a community. And so this is where the work was born. And so like, I've been just doing this ever since then. This has been my therapy, just drawing and creating these lines and complicated images and circles, and just, you know, trying to find that peace and just trying to give back what I've gotten when I've been through this journey, the support that I've gotten. So basically that's kind of like where I'm at right now. And the 2 takeaways I wanted people to come away with in this process, this pivot that I've been doing, is 1, the importance of radical self-love. You know, we can't always look perfect. You know, we go through life, everything's fine, and suddenly life hits you, and then you have scars on your chest, but you're still here. You still have value, you're still beautiful. And I thought that was so important after experiencing this, because I was really taken aback by this pressure to look a certain way, you know, like, no, we just like cover you up and, you know, put these implants and you'll be fine. And I'm just like, well, no, you know, what's wrong with the way I look now? And this doesn't just apply to just breast cancer. This applies to anything really when it comes to the sizes and shapes of our bodies. You know, we have so much pressure to like conform to that, and I want to shatter that. And the second thing that I want people to take away from this is the importance of community care. I could not have gone through this without the support of community, not just my friends and my family, but the team of doctors. When I would go in for my MRIs and I was getting scanned and they're putting these needles in and they're doing biopsies, the nurses would literally hold my hands and they say, you got this, you're okay. They would rub my back and they would hug me and they were like, you're doing okay. They were so kind. The surgeon that made me feel seen, it really meant the world to me. And in this day and age, we're looking at so much turmoil and chaos, where this idea of community is more important than ever. We live in an American culture where we're focused on rugged individualism, you know, like we're out pioneers, but really we don't get through this without our community. And I think in this day and age with, you know, whether it's a pandemic, the state of our democracy, our own personal battles, I think community care is crucial. So I'm hoping that this work inspires you to go out and check on your loved ones, your friends, and find ways to reconnect with your community. And I'm so happy to be doing this with Zuri, because they're kind of in my adopted family. Ashley and Sandra, they've been really, really gracious in opening up the space for me. And at first it was like a dress addiction. And then I met some wonderful people many of you are here tonight. And it just really reinforced the idea of this community. And here you guys all are. Many of you I've never met before. And you've come together, and it touches me so much that you've come in so support, and you really are what community is about. So I thank you. So that's really what I have to say.
Thank you.
So if anybody has any questions or comments, I mean, I'm opening it up to everyone, so.
Well, my mastectomy is in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
I am going to do reconstruction.
Okay. How do you feel?
A little frightened, just trying to get organized.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband and I have joined some of the Facebook groups, and that's how we found you here today, because we're from Jersey. Yeah.
Someone has to be.
Exactly. But I'm trying to figure out, or we're trying to figure out some of the best ways to help us heal after the surgery is done, or to help me heal, but to also not put him through too much.
I mean,
that's what we're trying to do.
Everyone's healing journey looks different, you know. And for me, it was through art. For other people, it's like exercise or just finding something that brings you peace. But I think it's just the only thing I can tell you is the most important thing is to take it one day at a time, and just be grateful that you're not just a passenger. You're being confronting it head on. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Self-care days.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
Self-care.
So I've been trying to conduct my own personal research. My mother died when she was 35 of breast cancer, back in the 90s when there was no, really, if you were a 30-year-old woman, why would you get a mammogram? I was tested for the gene and found out 3 years ago that I have it. I've decided to have a double mastectomy in a few years. Do you think if you, hindsight is 20/20, right? But because I want to live, kind of like what you said, I don't care about these things.
Right.
Do you, if for someone who doesn't have breast cancer but is considering that, would it have changed your mind to have it before you got a diagnosis?
So the thing with diagnosis is I've had complicated tissue for 17 years. I started getting clinical breast exams when I was 26 because when I first saw a gynecologist, your breasts are very complicated and you need to go to a surgeon. I would get checked every year. And I had a lot of cysts, and they told me, when you hit 40, it's going to be hard to do a mammogram because it's kind of dense in there. And so I had asked them, should I be doing a double mastectomy? And I'm just no, because at that time, I don't think they really wanted to say, I was high risk. And at the time, I didn't realize it then, but people who do have fibrocystic dense tissue are at higher risk of breast cancer. I didn't have any genetic, abnormalities. Once you get diagnosed, they usually have you do a genetic test. Everything was clean. But I said, I've known for a long time that, I might have 2 time bombs on my chest. And when they go off, they're coming off. So, I don't really have any regrets because it's impossible to really change the past and, why torment yourself. But I am grateful that I was aggressively screening. So, in addition to doing the clinical breast exams, by the time I hit 40 and I had to do the mammograms, I did 3D mammograms once a year and then ultrasounds twice a year. So somebody was always looking. So I feel pretty good about being proactive about it. And I'm at peace with that.
And then this one's about the art. So I know you talked about the process a bit, but how do you see it moving forward with everything that you've sort of found out about the situation and found solstice in? What does that mean for the progression of art?
I think now that I feel more confident, it's time. I want to go bigger. A lot of these works are 18 by 24, but now I'm okay, now I really want to go and put it out
30 by
there.
40, go for it.
That's what I actually, I ordered some 30 by 40 watercolor paper, so that's next. So I want to, I want to go bigger. I know I do still want to keep experimenting with, abstract, figurative. I'm really kind of fixated on this idea of community. This is one of my favorite pieces that just sold yesterday. we the people, and it's just
Woo,
like
obsessed.
Lucky liar.
But this is we the people, and it's continuing this theme of community, and it reflects, you know, my love of New York, because when I put this work together like this, it's not just a gathering of people, it's also kind of like the skyline of New York, you know, so more representations like that. And also too, because it resonates with women who have been dealing with breast cancer, I do want to possibly partner with some healthcare centers, breast care centers, so that, you know, when women go in there and they're not looking at sterile walls, but they see themselves, you know, represented throughout their breast cancer journey. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. yes.
Yeah, just to feed off of that, going into the center and have the artwork there, would you be open to going in there or sort of doing workshops?
Oh yeah.
Would that be something?
Yeah, because I feel like I said, I've been so lucky to get so much from people, like, you know, support and care, and I feel like it's important for me to give back, you know, to have this outlet. And I've had women contact me and they say like, yeah, I've been doing art too to help me with this, so I feel like, you know, this is helping me. And so I would love to open that up to people who may not have thought about using art therapy to help them heal. So absolutely, yeah, definitely want to do that. Any other questions or feedback? Okay, well guys, thank you for coming. I'm so grateful. Once again, I want special thanks to Delaney and Tiff, my curators, my advisors, for creating this opportunity, this space. Couldn't have done it without you, and thank you all for coming out. Oh, thank
An
you.
honor.
It was so fun.
Thank
We
you.
love you.
Oh, I love you
And
guys
we're so
too.
proud of you.
Ditto.
Thank you. So guys, mingle, you know, drink wine, look at dresses, have a good time.
Buy art.
Buy art.
Buy art.
Yes.